Assalamu alaikum. Lately, a lot of Canadians have been enjoying evening walks to get a bit of fresh air after long days at home during this pandemic. On Sunday in London, Ontario, that's what a grandmother, 2 parents, and 2 children went out to do. 3 generations of the Afzul family. Salman, Madia, their children Yumna and Fayaz, and their grandmother. But unlike every other night, that family never made it home. Their lives were taken in a brutal, cowardly, and brazen act of violence. This killing was no accident. This was a terrorist attack motivated by hatred in the heart of one of our communities. Monsieur le Président, je suis horrifié par l'attaque qui a enlevé la vie à 4 membres d'une famille et blessé gravement un petit garçon de 9 ans dimanche soir à London, en Ontario. Nous sommes de tout cœur avec leurs proches durant ces moments extrêmement difficiles. Et on espère tous que le petit garçon pourra se remettre de ses blessures rapidement, même si on sait qu'il vivra longtemps avec la tristesse, l'incompréhension et la colère causées par cette attaque lâche et islamophobe. Ce n'est malheureusement pas un cas isolé. La grande mosquée de Québec, the cowardly murder of Mohammed Aslam Zafis at a mosque in Toronto, the violent attacks against Black Muslim women in Edmonton, and so many other people across the country who faced insults, threats, and violence. They were all targeted because of their Muslim faith. This is happening here in Canada, and it has to stop. Monsieur le Président, on ne doit pas s'habituer à cette violence.
We must not become
On ne doit pas
desensitized
se
to this
laisser
violence.
désensibiliser. On ne peut pas accepter
We must
que ça
not
devienne normal.
accept this as normal.
Chaque fois qu'on est témoin de cette haine,
Every
on doit
time that we
la
witness such
dénoncer.
hate, we must
Et
call
ça
it out.
commence par des petits gestes.
This starts with small
Words
actions.
matter. They can be a seed that grows into an ugly, pervasive trend, and sometimes they lead to real violence. The jokes that are not funny, the casual racism, the insinuations that are only meant to diminish, the toxic rhetoric, the disinformation and the extremism online, the polarization we see too often in our public discourse and in our politics. As leaders and as Canadians, we not only have to say enough is enough, we must take action. We cannot allow any form of hate to take root, because the consequences can be far too serious. We've seen it in Christchurch. We've seen it in other places around the world, and we've lived it here at home. Right now, Canadians are outraged by what happened on Sunday, and many Muslim Canadians are scared. Last night, I spoke with the Mayor of London, Ed Holder, and a representative of the local Muslim community, Nawaz Tahir, to share my condolences and discuss the urgency of what more we must do to keep our communities safe. Mr. Speaker, we stand with the people of London and with Muslim communities across the country. We're going to continue to fund initiatives like the Security Infrastructure Program to help protect communities at risk and their schools and places of worship. We'll continue to fight hate online and offline, which includes taking even more action to dismantle far-right hate groups, like we did with the Proud Boys, by adding them to Canada's terror listing. And we'll continue doing everything we can to keep communities safe. L'auteur de l'attaque cruelle de
The
dimanche à
perpetrator
London
of Sunday's
ne nous
cruel
représente pas.
attack in London
en
does
tant
not
que Canadiens.
represent us as
Parce qu'on
Canadians.
sait qu'on est plus
Because
fort
we
dans
know
la paix
that we gain
que dans la
strength
haine
through peace,
et la violence.
not through hatred and violence.
Et on sait aussi qu'il faut se
But we
dire
also
la
know
vérité.
that we need
Cette
to
haine
look at the
et
truth in the
cette
face.
violence
This hatred
existe
and this
chez nous,
violence does exist in our
que
country,
ce soit dans la rue,
whether it's in our streets,
en ligne
online,
ou ailleurs.
or elsewhere.
Et tant qu'elle va exister,
And as long as it exists,
on va avoir du
we will
travail à
have
faire.
work to do.
Mr. Speaker, if anyone thinks racism and hatred don't exist in this country, I ask to them this: how do we explain such violence to that child in hospital? How can we look families in the eye and say Islamophobia isn't real? When you listen to the black Muslim woman who constantly looks over her shoulder at the bus stop, fearing someone will pull off her hijab or hurt her, she'll tell you Islamophobia exists. If you listen to the parents who beg their children not to wear traditional clothes for fear of them being harassed or attacked simply for what they're wearing, I'll tell you, racism exists. Muslim families have often felt uncertain or even fearful when they go out in the streets wearing traditional garb. The reality is, most Canadians haven't necessarily been aware of that fear that far too many racialized and Muslim Canadians carry with them anytime they go outside. If the attack in London has any follow-up or I don't even want to say positive, but any impact on non-Muslim Canadians, it should be this: to understand the anxiety and the fear that our fellow Canadians carry, that they shouldn't be. And it is on all of us to understand that experience and be there to support and to help. We can and we must act. As Canadians, we've been fighting a global pandemic for over a year now, and we did it by coming together, by working together. And that is the only way of confronting the ugly face of hatred. I want all Canadians to know that we are all diminished when any one of us is targeted. We need to stand up to reject racism and terror and work together to embrace what makes our country strong, our diversity. May peace and blessings be upon you.